In this video, we're going to work through pulling data directly from websites. There are a few pieces of information that I left in the last video and also here that you could look and find out some tutorials from this. The same packages that we were using before, the main one we're going to be interested in this time is the R-Selenium. So there are different things you can use to pull data from websites. If it's a simple HTML website, and especially if it's a static website, that's fairly straightforward. As things have developed into more dynamic websites, there have been new methods used to try and pull data from them, and we'll go through that. Selenium is one of those methods, and what Selenium does is act like an actual user pulling information from a website. So to the other website, it looks a lot like if you were just clicking on this on your own. There is some legality and sort of ethics to pulling information from websites. So that's here on this web scraping best practices. And then also this part, so this one talking about the legality. Also, the main rule to remember is when you pull from a website, it should be doing so legally, and you should read and see if they allow that as well. So in other words, don't just start spamming websites with all kinds of requests for information. Okay, so we use this R-Selenium. How it works is it creates a driver here, so this R-Selenium driver, and that driver of it is going to be this here, RD. So what that's going to do is open up a browser for you that usually I use Firefox. You can use some other ones as well, but usually Firefox is the easiest to use, at least from what I can tell. So notice it opened up this web page for me. We're going to use this to navigate and figure out what's going on as we are searching and trying to pull data from a website. You can do this without this actual interface, and that's actually if you're going to do this sort of on a full-time basis where you're going to pull lots of information, then you wouldn't use this. You would shut down this so it's not opening up and running everything that you're doing. So I'll move this out of the way for just a minute and we'll come back and see what's there. The next, we need to tell it that we're going to create this client from it. So this is this, we're going to create it and we're going to call it this rem drive, so remote driver, and then we're going to open it as this client. So it's creating this web server. So here we go. Now what you then do is take this thing that you've created, so this open object. So this object is the browser, and then anything we do to it is after the $sign. So from this browser, we're going to open. This is just opening the browser. Now we can say, well, from this browser, navigate. From this browser, get certain information. So you'll see this throughout here that we're doing certain things to open and pull information from them. There are a lot of things we can do, lots of different commands. You can look this up on the R-Selenium package, looking for tutorials like here, for example, or on the R-Selenium webpage itself. So let's go into this one, ycharts.com. That provides some charts and data, and it's just an easy place to pull information. We can do it from other places as well, but this one has this crude oil price index. Let's say that's what we want to pull. So we can run that, and notice what pops up then is it navigated to this website, and we want to pull information from this website. All right, so then how we do that, we can then look and see what is available here in this website. And here I'm going to get the page source and pull out the first piece of information that's on that page source. So notice it's all over here and it's nasty, right? Not easy to read, but if I output it here, see it outputs a bunch of stuff that is from the source page. Well, then there's a function here that says to read HTML. So that's the next piece we could do, and it's trying to figure out what's in the HTML page. And we look over here, it gives information that's in the document, that is different parts of the document here. Then finally, if we want to get just a table that's in the document, we can do that same thing. And notice it's got a bunch of these tables. So we've got this list of tables in here. And you have to search through and figure out which is the table that I want. So here's one table, the sixth table. How I did this is I went through table 1, table 2, table 3, and I just kept going. Table 7 is this other one. Well, if you look at the web page, how it's listed it then is these two columns here are table 6. These two columns here are table 7. So we found that just by finding a table that is on the page. So again, read the HTML, find the table that's on the page, and then go through the tables until you find which one is which table has the information you want. Of course, if it doesn't have a table on the page and you're pulling some other piece, that's not quite that easy. So we'll do that in a different in the last part of the code. Another one, then let's say we put these together. Let's put table 6 and table 7. Our bind is to combine by rows. So this is going to put table 6 on top of table 7. And we look over here, notice now we have all of the dates and the oil price index prices. So that is, if we have a table on a web page, that's the easiest version, because then we can just pull stuff directly from there. Let's try something different. Now let's navigate to this Google Trends. I just have these pieces here, but if you already had them, you don't need to do them again, so I'll just comment them out here. So now we've navigated to the Google Trends web page, and the next part we have to figure out, where do we put something in the page. So here, this Google Trends. So what I would like to do is input here, for example, let's see, what did I put in the code? Restaurants in College Station. So if I just input that, this is what happens if I do that manually. Well, I want to be able to do this not manually. So I'm here. I want to be able to say, input something into this search box here. So how do we do that? Well, notice here in the code it says input 254 and ID. Well, and we're trying to find that element. So this says go in this with the web page that we're on, try and find the elements that are on there, and it's going to find the ID that is input 254. Well, how do we do that? Well, we can right click and say inspect, and that allows us to look through here and find where are the pieces that we're trying to get here. So let's look here. So what we're looking for is this piece, and we can search through here, right? We can just click on things until we find the piece that we're interested in. So one way we might try and do this, what if we do Control F to search here, and notice up here it says enter a search term or a topic. So we could search for that, enter a search, and let's see if that'll find it. Okay, so then notice here it says somewhere in here, enter a search, right here, enter a search term or a topic. So we found this piece that it's looking for, and notice if we hover here, it shows that that is identifying this piece of the web page up here. So it's fairly easy if you see an ID in here. Notice it says ID input equals 254. So that seems to be the object that we're looking for, is this input dash 254. So when we're working in Selenium, we just need to find a place to identify that object. Of course, sometimes we can't find it by ID. Maybe we need class or other things to help us find that object. But the key part is we're trying to find an object here. So we're going to use ID to try and find that object. So it says find elements. So it's going to find where that element is. And then if it's an input box, then we can input what the send keys to element is, the thing that it's going to send there. It needs to be in a list, and I'm going to input this restaurants College Station. So I run this. It's going to send the key there, which is just the input. Notice once I do that, restaurants College Station pops up in here. So it sent it into that object. Then we can send keys to element. This time, instead of entering this part, we're going to hit a key, which is the enter key. Okay, so run that. And notice what pops up is what we did when we searched manually. So then the question is, what do we want to pull out of here? Let's say we want to pull something interesting out of here. Well, we can then go through and find what's on that. So I'm going to name it page elements 2. So find elements, and we have to look through and find, and elements means find multiple elements rather than a single element. And we're going to use class name because when we look in here, so the thing we're trying to find is this download button here. So let's say I want to click on this to get a CSV, or sorry, this one up here. I'm going to click on this to get the CSV file of this trend here. Well, we have to find where that CSV, that link to download it is. And if we do the same thing as we did before to inspect, it turns out it's not that easy to find because we don't know what we're looking for, and we can go through and kind of work our way through trying to find the part that it gets highlighted, but it's not that easy, right? So notice we're close to it here, but we're just we have to walk through and see until we finally can find the piece that is showing up here. Well, let's say I just want to find every one of them using this class name, and I look and I find widget actions items. So this I found just by me walking through each of these pieces for a long time. So we can search here and find where that shows up. And so notice it has class, and then this here is the class name. So I can go through and try and find where this thing shows up, and eventually I end up finding the one that allows me to click on it. So if you have some other, you would find the item that you're trying to look for here, but I'm going to look up find the class names for the widget action items. So now it's got a list of them, this page elements 2, it's got a bunch of these elements, not really sure what should come up. So I'm just going to walk my way through this. So I'm going to choose notice in this page elements 2, I'm going to use the first item, so I'm calling I1, so I'm going to use the first item, and I'm just going to highlight it, which is a nice feature here. So when I do it, let's see if I can get it to show on the same screen here. Let's see if you can see it as it pops up. So I'm going to run this. Notice it highlighted right here. That's the thing I want. So the very first item is the one I'm interested in. Then I have this set up to try multiple things. So I could do this one, number 2. So then how I walk through this is I highlight it, and it's going to add 1 to this. So then it'll highlight number 2, number 3, number 4. Notice it's starting to walk its way through the different items. Well, I found it on the first item that I'm interested in. So I'm just going to do number the first one here. That's the one I want to be able to use. So now I'm going to do page elements to the very first item. I'm going to click on that element. And if you didn't see it over here, what happened was sorry, I'll do it over here so you can see it again. It downloaded it over here. So now I have this element in my downloads folder. So I can read this in, and now this is from my downloads folder. Now I have this object DTA, and notice it has this thing that I searched for, restaurants, College Station, and it has how many searches there were in each of those weeks. So a couple things, then after we're done doing that, we need to close the web page that we were working on. So notice that just closed it, and we can remove any of the items. So remote driver, I'm going to remove those items from my environment over here. And then if we have, it sometimes holds things in memory, so GC is garbage clearing, something like that. That'll remove things, unused memory from our environment as well. And if you've looked at lots of web pages, then that will become important. Okay, a couple things that I hope you get out of this, and really to do a great job of becoming an expert in finding data on web pages, it's pretty involved. So the couple things I want you to capture is finding, navigating with R is not that hard, right? We get the Selenium and we can go to different web pages pretty easily. We can get the source and find the HTML and the table if it's a simple format. Sometimes it's not a simple format, but if it's just a simple HTML code, then that's really easy to pull. If it's JavaScript or something like that, then we encounter more problems. But then we can pull out which tables we want, and it comes directly there. The other one is, what if we don't have tables and there's something else we want to get? Well, we have to look on the page, find which elements we're looking for, and this is the challenging part, finding what is that object. Here we use the ID. There are other things you can use, but it's not worth spending a ton of time on that. So then we're going to pull all of that out here. We can send things to enter into the web page and press keys on the web page. And then we can do some tools like highlighting to try and find those items and clicking on those items. So hopefully that gives you just a really short introduction to trying to understand how we might navigate web pages. Doing some web scraping. We won't get too much more complicated than that, but I think it's worth getting an idea so that if this comes up as a possibility, it's not sort of a shot in the dark for you.